Good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Morning Prep, Monday, October 17th. Could have an interesting week ahead. A quick recap review. We had our FOMC CPI last week on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday was kind of a choppy, mute day, even the reaction to FOMC, meaning that it was all priced in and expected, and they were really waiting for the CPI numbers. And those numbers we dumped hard to the bottom of a bunch of squeezes, especially one I want to point out is the daily squeeze that is formed on all indices. So we'll take a look at all of those. Can we dump through the daily squeeze? Yes, but we could also find support at it and send us up to the top of that daily squeeze, which sits up at 3,900 near the daily 50. But on that CPI data, dropped down, setting new low of year, and then shot right back up to the daily 21. We rejected it on Friday to come back to the middle of that range, and overnight we've been on a nice regression higher. Before we dig into where we could be going today, let's take a quick look at our economic calendar. It's kind of a light week as far as economic data goes. Get out of here. Looks like we've got some manufacturing data, production data, some housing starts and building permits. We have Beige Book Wednesday at 2. If you're not familiar with the Beige Book, please go Google it. It is kind of the Fed budget. So sometimes we can see some reaction to it. It usually takes a minute for the market to digest it once it releases. It's not quite the same as like an FOMC day, but we can sometimes see some interesting movement off it depending on what's reported. Thursday we have our jobless claims and some more manufacturing data and home sales data. And then on a Friday at noon, we have some inflation data coming out. So we'll see what that brings. Just looking into next week, we have some PMI data, some GDP data, some more employment and PCE data. That's next week, though. Let's focus on this week. So where could ES be sending us today? Kind of have this zone of support that I drew and that we have, talked about in prep. We've interacted with during the live session at around this 35.87 up to a 35.97. On Friday's sell-off, that's exactly where we ended up. And then last night in the overnight session, we started a nice steady uptrend to get back near this 36.39. If we look back, that kind of was the upper end of the range from last week. Yes, we were a little higher near that 36.68. But that 36.39 was past Monday was kind of the upper end of the range. We even rejected it on that CPI data, took off through it, back below it, and now we're back at it. Also have a key level here at 36.21. So for the morning, if we can hold up this zone that we have arrived back at, holding up above 36.21, a little bit below where VWAP sits right now. If we can hold there and start to work our way through this 36.39 and daily 8, we can make a push up to 36.68 near that daily 15, and 3708 and psych level 3700 up at the top of this 4-hour squeeze with the daily 21 sitting at 3722. That's upside. And really, I would even be okay if we came down and took a test of this zone where we closed at to fill the gap. And if this zone can hold and send us back through these key levels, the upside thesis still holds. But if we kind of reject the daily 8 at the top of what looks like potentially an hourly squeeze. Yep, hourly squeeze. If we reject this daily 8 and start to roll back through 3621, 3600 to this zone to fill the gap, and we start to lose the zone, then we're talking about going to retest 3571 and 3541 down again at the bottom of this 4-hour and the bottom of this daily. Do we have to get to, the daily 21 or the retest these lows today? No, not at all. I mean, we could just easily chop around these key levels that we were at last week. Oh, also we have some earnings this week. Let me get that pulled up. We have some earnings. Today before the open, we have some banks. More banks and travel, healthcare. I covered this in the prep that I posted last night. But if you missed it, definitely check out our earnings channel and the schedule for the week. It's not maybe going to be as big of a week as when big tech reports. But we have, in the market right now, everyone is bearish, and we have little reason to go up. Earnings reports could give the market some reason for a relief rally. We have banks this week. We have some travel. United and American Airlines, and as you look around, there's some others. We have some healthcare: Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Abbott Labs. We have some telecommunications: Nokia, Verizon. We have some chips: IBM, Lam Research. So, and then the big ones are Netflix and Tesla after the close on Tuesday and Wednesday. So definitely check out the earnings schedule. And, we should be getting ready for a whole new earnings season. It was actually kicked off a couple of weeks ago when MU reported. They're kind of the first in tech, and when we really start to pay attention to the upcoming earnings schedule. And this is the first busy week. The last couple of weeks on earnings, it's been pretty light. This is the first big, heavy week where each one of these columns is pretty much full. And for the next few weeks, we can expect about this amount of entities to report earnings. So that's kind of the forecast for the week and for today. Can we get back up to the daily 21? Are we going to retest lows at either at the top or the bottom of these squeeze clouds? I'll be using all these key levels to gauge where we're going. Let's go to NQ. Oh, and just for fun, I will point out to my futures folks, or anyone interested in futures, I was up last night late trading some futures. You gonna load for me? Come on, man. Finally. I add in our beast tool. just to show you kind of how the overnight session went. We got a quick pop up to our open range sell zone where we settled and did not come back to retest even the bottom of that sell zone. So that lends to a bullish thesis. I can tell you last night I did trade pretty much off of this blue line at 36.08. You know, caught a little move up, came back, caught another little move up, and it came back kind of one last time, close to it at VWAP here, right? And then after that test and kind of a break of this high, we took off on a straight trajectory up to our purple hash line, right near this 36.39. We came back to retest 36.21, came back to purple hashed line again. So it was a nice move and target overnight. Oh, looks like we have a bot. Let me try to take care of this real quick. How do we there we go. Hey, we finally made it, folks. We're getting bots in the YouTube chat. So, either way, was a nice move on ES overnight. And if we look at NQ, which is a little bit more what I was trading, kind of the same thing. We shot up to our open range buy zone, or open range sell zone, sorry. We did dip down to test the bottom of that, where I took some longs back up to our purple line. And then when we came back to the blue line, picked up some longs again, locking small profits along the way. And then finally, around midnight, got this break higher that got us to the purple line, which, you know, was from 782 up to 896. So it was a very nice move that I caught a good couple of pieces of. But either way, on NQ, where can we go today? As you can see, with the futures and our tool, we are moving near that purple hash line. We have kind of cleared out the squeezes that were in place. So we'll have to see if we can open and hold this purple hash line, the midline, or if we're going to take a dip back down to retest where we were bouncing overnight at our open range sell zone, or if we're going to come back and retest the open and kind of fill this gap up. Let's go ahead and take this tool off. So we can focus a little more at key levels. So, NQ arriving back at key levels that create a little zone here from 890 to 942. Let's see if we do have a dip at open, if we can hold basically around this 850, which is kind of where VWAP is right now. And it's also where we interacted with a lot last night. Once we broke above 800, we ran straight up to 850. Then we'd push past it, come back to it, push a little higher still. So kind of at first looking for 850 to hold if we do have a dip. If we start to give out 850 and 800, then we could be coming back to fill the gap and even retest this 656 down at the bottom of the 4-hour and daily squeeze. But if we can hold up here and start to push through this 950, we've got the daily 8 just above the big psych level 11,000. And with the ultimate goal of trying to get back up to this 4-hour squeeze top and 11,200 where the daily 15 sits. So let's see if we can get back up to these daily moving averages or if we're going to roll back and retest the lows. On the ready. Same deal. Even though we did have this sell-off on Friday on everything, right? We did have a very strong day up on Thursday with a ton of volume. And we're starting to maybe set a higher low, as long as we don't come back and head lower, right? So definitely worth noting a big extreme low, us coming back kind of near the neckline of an inverse head and shoulder, and having a good uptrend overnight. Let's see if Ready can hold above 1700 on a dip. I'd be okay with that. With the goal of getting through the daily 8 and 15 here, getting through 720, and getting up to a 1740, where the daily 21 sits, and the top of this 4-hour squeeze at 1750. We can see the daily squeeze is established a little bit lower. So if we do start to give out 1700, coming back to fill the gap at 1780-ish. And if 1780 can't hold, then we're coming potentially to retest all these lows at 1656, 43, and then we'll tap the bottom of these 4-hour and daily squeezes. YM. Definitely holding up the best out of all the indices, right? Even on Friday's pullback, we just hit the top of last week's range and held that 29,640. Making our way back up to the daily 21 up here at 30,000 big psych level. If we do have a dip, definitely want this 625 to 740 zone with the daily 15 and daily 8 to hold. If we do have a little dip to potentially fill the gap, looking for us to hold here and bounce to get back above this daily 21 at 30,000 with the goal of pushing it up to recent highs around 30,500. But if we start to lose that zone of support in Friday and go past Friday's lows and this 29,640 key level with the daily 15 at 29,625, should those start to give out, likely coming back to retest 29,400 and 315. And if we go past that, we got some key levels as well, past, excuse me, even lower. And back at lows would be back at that daily squeeze near 635. Apple. On Friday, made it back to this zone that it was defending after, opening below that zone on CPI and shooting up. We're back to defending that zone and trying to open higher. So on any dip, looking for this zone to still provide support and send us back through 141 to 144.5 up at the top of this squeeze. And if we can get past that a little, 145.5, we'll call it, is where the daily 21 will be. If we start to give out this zone, then we'll likely come back to retest 135 and the potential zone below that at 133, 132.5. AMD. 56 is the big key level. Let's see if we can hold 56, start to make our way back up to 58, 59, and 60 up at the top of this 4-hour squeeze. And the daily 8 is sitting there as well. Just talking about this week, we do have a couple of chips reporting. Chips have been getting beaten up, and AMD has been down at third Keltner and a huge key level of 56. I covered this in my prep last night. So, if we can start to make that journey back up and get through the daily 8 and this 4-hour squeeze top, we could be potentially talking about a reversion to the mean. The daily 21 that sits up at this 65.5 right now. If we start to give out 56, the next big key level below that, 52.8. Amazon. And, relative strength, it did give out right back to the lows of Thursday's gap down. But we're at some interesting levels. And if you're interested, go check out the prep from last night, and I cover some of these and how I got them. But 106.6, a key level. Let's see if we can hold it. Start to work our way back up to this 113, let's call it, where the daily 8 and another key level sit. And if we can get past that, looking to see 116, 117, where the daily 21 is kind of coming to settle at the top of this 4-hour squeeze. If we do give up that 106, go into that 104.25 and 101 and a half-ish where this third Keltner sits. BA, nice gap up, right near the highs. So let's see if BA wants to have some relative strength. On a dip, looking for that 134 and filling the gap to try to hold, maybe in this pre-market low or overnight low. But let's see if we can keep pressing through this daily 21, this recent high, with the goal of getting up to this 138.5 outside of this 4-hour squeeze, and where that first Keltner sits to the upside at 141. Cat. Setting a higher low from that gap down. Kind of an expanding megaphone, if you will. On a dip, looking for this daily 21, daily 8 to hold. Should it give out, we are going to revisit the daily 15, this 173 at the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. If we can hold the daily 21, daily 8 here around 117.5, 177.5, sorry. If we can hold here, looking to get back through 180, which it looks like we might be opening at, and get up to this 183 where the daily 50 sits, and Friday's kind of pre-market high around 185. Coin's been making some big moves lately, so gonna try to keep it on the radar a little more. It looks like kind of early in the week. No, actually just going to keep an eye on it and see what unfolds. Not that I'm loving the name or anything, but she just has been making some interesting moves, and the risk to reward on her can be pretty good. So let's see. If we start to come back and lose that pre-market low, we could be coming back to fill the gap at 63, 61.8. Retesting lows. But if we can get a bounce or just keep pushing from where we open, looking for it to get back up to all of these daily moving averages above, from 67.5 up to 68.7, where the daily 21 sits. If we can push past that, psych level 70 and up to 74 at the top of this 4-hour squeeze. Google. Oh, nice little strength here in the morning. Decent little gap up. So on any dips, let's see if kind of that 96.5 where we closed near, right? And where that little wick came down to. If we have a dip, looking for that to hold. Let's see if we can press through this 28.78. Jeez, wow. 98.78. Trying to get through at 99 and back to 100 where the daily 21 sits. If we can push past that, 101 and 103 are my next targets. If we start to lose 96.5, we could be coming back into this zone around 95 to test the bottom of these squeezes. Anything past that at 93.4 and this, 94 low. GS, trying to hold daily 15 and 8. Want to see that hold on a dip at this psych level of 300 with the goal of getting back to 307 where the daily 21 sits, 310 at the top of this 4-hour squeeze, and a push through to about 317, 315 and a half recent highs and first Keltner up. Should 300 start to give out, probably be talking 296 and then 292 down near that 4-hour squeeze bottom. JPM already reported, did not have a huge tank on earnings. So just like I talked about, we don't have a ton of reason to head up right now, but earnings could provide some reason for upside. They did, at least during the last cycle. So on JPM, let's see if it can keep getting up to this daily 50 recent high. Daily 50 at 114, recent high at 115 and a quarter, and then past that 17. But if we start to come back and lose 110 and a half, we could be coming back to this daily 21 at 109 and daily 8 and 15 at 107 and a half. Meta. Not a ton of interest, but we did get down to this 123, and now we're trying to set a higher low. Let's see if we can hold 126 on any pullbacks. Excuse me. And then looking to get through 130, back to 132 where the daily 8 sits. And trying to push through this 4-hour squeeze top to get back to 135 at the daily 15 and 138. And just call it this 137 where the daily 21 is almost caught up to. Microsoft. This 232.86, a big key level. Let's see if we can push through it at open with the goal of trying to get up to this 4-hour squeeze top, which is at 236 and a half where the daily 15 sits. If we can get past that, looking to get to 240, 241 where that daily 21 sits. If we reject this 232 and come back, let's see if we can at least hold pre-market lows and filling this gap. If those give out, coming back to 225 and maybe even 223 at the bottom of this daily squeeze that's forming around Microsoft. Yeah, so let's see if we want to retest the bottom of this daily squeeze to set a higher low, or if this is a good enough higher low. And we're going to truck higher from there. But definitely keep an eye on Microsoft. It had some pretty decent strength in this run up, and Friday's sell-off just came back to the top of the range, just like we talked about on YM. Netflix. This one is definitely interesting. It made its move up in the previous week when other things were not looking as strong. Netflix made a move up and consolidated. And then for last week, fell back down for FOMC and CPI. We're at the bottom of a big old daily and 2-day squeeze that we held, and now we've popped back up to the mean. Daily mean, daily squeeze. So we're right in the middle. Let's see if we can hold the daily mean, hold above 230. and try to push off of 230, 233 here in an effort to get back to 240, 242, 245 recent high, and then 250. But if we start to give out 230 in the bottom of this hourly squeeze, we will likely come back to revisit 220, 218, 216 at the bottom of these daily squeezes. But yeah, right in the middle of that daily squeeze could get interesting. NVIDIA drew a, little bit of a wide 8-point zone of support and interest from previous price action. Again, go check out prep from yesterday. But let's see if they're going to beat up chips a little more, if they come back to fill the gap and retest the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze. Kind of looking for this 108 to 110 to hold and give support to send NVIDIA higher. If we can get back above 115, could make a nice move to 118, 120, 122.5 at the top of this 4-hour squeeze where the daily 15 sits, and past that 125.5 where the daily 21 is caught up to. QQQ. Made it back to 260. So if we have a dip, as we are approaching, or at 265 actually, man, making a nice move. So on a dip, let's see if 260 can hold, kind of affirming that higher low. And if we keep pushing through 265, looking to get to 267.5 where the daily 8 sits, 270, 271 where the daily 15 and the top of the 4-hour squeeze sits, and past that 275 where the daily 21 sits. Back at this zone that I drew, that is resistance. That's kind of the next big resistance point. Haven't seen it in a couple of weeks, so if we get back up to that in the daily 21, that's kind of the target. If we start to give out 260, coming back to retest, this 254, 256, maybe in this 251. SPX, and we having a little 50-point gap up. So going to be back over 3,600 and kind of opening near the daily 8. Let's see if we can get through the daily 8, daily 15, back up to 3680, the top of this 4-hour squeeze, and if we can push past that to this psych level 3700, the daily 21 is slowly catching up to that. If we start to come back to fill the gap, that would be getting back to this 3588, and if 3580 and 3588 can't hold us, then we're talking about coming back to revisit the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze, 3540, near these recent lows. SPY. Arriving back at this 362.5, or sorry, 362.15-ish. Let's see if 362 is resistance. That brings us back to 360 in this zone. That should be support now that we're back above it. Ultimately looking for this to hold on a pullback if we get one. And get back through this 362 where the daily 8 sits. 365 where the daily 15 sits. And the goal of getting back to 370 where that daily 21 is sitting at the top of that 4-hour squeeze. If we start to give out this zone of support, we could be coming back to that 355, 354 zone. Should that not hold, then we're talking about this psych level 350 and 348, 349 key levels. Tesla. Making it down near big key psych level 200. Let's see if they want to take Tesla back down to fill the gap and hit that 200. or if they're going to try and hold at this 206 to send it back up to engulf Friday. So if we can hold at this 206, then it's 210, 216, 223. But if we do go back to fill the gap looking for 200 to hold, if it can't, then we're talking down there at 190. UVXY. So for further upside in the market today, looking for UVXY to stay under 13. You know, if we get a little dip to fill gaps on things, would like to see UVXY stay under 13. Get down below 12.5 where the daily 15 sits, and make it all the way down to 12 where the daily 21 and the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze sits. But if we are going to roll over and fill the gap, we'll likely see UVXY come up to 13. And if we go any further past filling gap, we'll likely see it come back up to 13.5 and 13.8, where that daily 200 sits in this recent high. So, on to VIX. Coming back down near this daily 8 and slightly under 32. If we're going to see a pullback to fill the gap and maybe more downside, we will likely see us hold around this daily 8 and 32, getting back up above it and heading to 32.5, maybe 33 at the top of these squeezes. If we can see some more upside today, would like to see us stay under 32.5, get under 32, and get down to 31.5, maybe even 31 and 30.5 where the daily 21 sits. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody in the room. Good luck today, and let's have fun this week.